In assignment 8B, we're going to put in a second object. So what you can do is take your assignment 8A, save it as 8B, and leave the original object. Keep it in the code. Just add a second one. Now when we design a game, our second object, we often chase it, avoid it, shoot it, or click on it. So we're paying most attention today to chasing, avoiding. Catching would be the opposite of avoiding, and we can do that as well. So the first one, we're going to write some code to have one object continually drop. Your program, if you were designing a game, might have apples falling from trees, and you'd be wandering around with a bucket that you could use to catch the apples. So how does it work? In the while true loop, we have a background, we have a couple of objects. In this example, we're going to have a dog that drops from the sky. So we're going to move the object down the screen, and when it goes off at the bottom, we put it back at the top in a new Y location. So we move the object down the screen. If you add 3 to the Y value, it'll keep it going down the screen. When it reaches 900, so that's saying that the bottom of the screen is at 900, we put the Y value back to the top, and we come up with a random X value. So after this object falls, it'll come back to the top in a new location. Back to the top in a new location, and then you have the basis of a game. Remember, if you're using random, you have to import random at the very top of your code. So remember to import random if you're doing this. Now you might want a variation of this game. You could also have objects that are continually coming from the right or left. Imagine that you have a plane, and you're flying your plane, and things are coming in from this side. Could be enemies. So on that one, instead of changing Y, you change X. And when your X value is off the screen, reset the X and get a random Y. So lots of possibilities here. So again, an object continually dropping or moving horizontally across the screen, change the X or Y value. When it's too big, so it's off the screen, reset it back to 0 and get a random number for the other variable. Your next option, you could have one object chase another. So we're going to have the dog chase the cat. Again, we start with a background and 2 images. If the dog is to the right of the cat, we want to move it left. So how do we program that? If the dog X value is bigger than the cat X value, meaning the dog X is over here, then what you want to do is you want to make the dog X value smaller, because then it will be closer to the cat. So we'll subtract 2. If the opposite is true, so we could say else this is not true, then we go in the opposite direction. So if the dog were over here, it would want to increase by 2 to get closer to the cat. So again, what do we say? If the dog is to the right of the cat, then we want to move left. So you subtract 2 to move left. If it is not true, then you do the opposite. What if the dog is below the cat? So now we're looking at the cat Y compared to the dog Y. And what would the code look like? So this is the dog Y. So if the dog is below, it would make the dog Y bigger, because in computer science, Y values get bigger as you go down. To get closer to the cat, we'd have to move up by subtracting 2. So if the dog is below the cat, so the Y value is bigger, move up by making the Y value smaller. If the opposite is true, go in the opposite direction. So again, this is if you want one object chasing another. What if you want an object to run away from another? So this time the dog is going to run away from the cat. If the dog X is bigger than the cat X, then the dog wants to continue to move to the right. So in this situation, we'd keep making the dog X bigger. So we'd add 2. We say it's already to the right, let's keep it moving to the right to go away. If it was on the other side, so this is no longer true, then we do the opposite. So again, what did we do? We said the dog is to the right of the cat, keep it moving to the right. If that's not true, keep it moving to the left. What happens if your dog Y is bigger? See if you can figure this one out yourself. There's our cat Y and our dog Y. So if the dog Y is bigger than the cat Y and we want to keep going in that direction, the code would look like this. The dog Y bigger than the cat Y. We want the dog Y to get even bigger so it keeps running away. If this is not true, we say else, do the opposite. Now, bit of warning on this. The objects that are running away might go off the screen. So imagine we've got our little cat here, and the dog is running away. So the dog's happily running off the screen this way. Eventually, it could end up off the screen. And it won't stop. It'll just go on forever. So you might want it to wrap around. After it's gone off that side, maybe it should reappear here, because otherwise we'll never see it again. So how you do that? If the right-hand side of my screen was 1100, I could say once you've reached that point, you need to come back, say at 100. So then the dog would leave this side and show up here. If it's gone off the bottom of the screen, let's say the bottom of the screen was 900, we could wrap it around by saying you've got to come back up. If we've gone off the bottom of the screen, I already did that. If we've gone off the top of the screen, dog Y less than 0, then we put it to the bottom. So I guess the one we're missing is what happened if we went off this side. So what would that look like? That would look a lot like this one if dog X is less than 0. Your dog X less than 0, then we'd want to bring the dog X to the right-hand side. So just be forewarned, this code is a little bit shaky, gets a little bit confused with itself. And it's partly because some of these overlap. So less than 0, we don't have to worry about any overlapping. I picked 1000, so it can still move to the right a bit. If I pick something bigger than 1100, it'll just be going left and right and left and right, and it'll be a bit crazy. So just a warning, this code sort of works, but is a bit shaky. Okay, what are you going to do? You're going to take your 8a, save it as 8b. Decide how your second object interacts. Do you want your second object to continually drop? If so, put this code in. Chase, put this code in. Run away, put this code in. It's entirely up to you which code you want to do.